off, I do agree with you.
Go right ahead. We began recording again.
I do agree with you, Mr. Harris, as far as keeping the focus on the Buffalo Soldiers. And so I think we have a central point where we can start from and gear around is Arlington Cemetery, like you said, with the United States Colored Troops, and then go all the way up until the Colonel Young story. And then it gives us precedent to do the forward story as far as post-World War I until current day, as far as telling the history of Black folks buried at Arlington. So I think you're right in keeping the focus from USCT, United States Colored Troops, to the Buffalo Soldiers, and that would be from 1861, all the way up through until Colonel Young, and that would be he retired in 1910 somewhere, or somewhere around that time in 1910, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, no, the storyboard, I think you and I could work on that. I mean, yeah, the beauty is when you talk about the Civil War and you reference Arlington, you know the history. Most people have no clue who owned that house and how it became a cemetery during the war. General Lee, married into the family that owned Arlington Cemetery when it was a plantation prior to the Civil War. And he made a decision to fight. West Point graduate, made a decision to fight with his family. And so that history, as it relates to Abraham Lincoln's election and the secession by the states that precipitated the Civil War, that is how we start the story. Arlington Cemetery, the Custis family, as you well know, lost that. It became a cemetery because of the war. So those people that are buried there is a national story because people from all over the world are buried there on that plantation. And as you so eloquently suggested, Section 27 is where colored troops from all over the United States are buried. That's was the cemetery. They died in proximity, and that's where they're buried. So yeah, you're right. The idea that we are in California talking about Union Square and why it's Union Square, and the people that came from New York that founded California, that fought, the folks in California not to be a Confederate state. Because we're in California, we might want to just focus on the graves in California, since that's where the national parks is telling the story. And that's where the congressional study, it did come from Arlington. It came from Jackie Sphere in California, and the Buffalo Soldiers that are buried in California that were the honor guards for Teddy Roosevelt, New York, Rough Rider. But the beauty is Colonel Charles Young and his wife, Ada Mills Young, who was born in California, are both now buried in Arlington Cemetery. So we get back. So the beginning and the end, if we just stay framed in the Civil War, the colored troops and the beginning of the Buffalo Soldier, it's a Arlington Cemetery story, but you have to talk about Arlington prior to it being a cemetery, not after folks are dead and then the rest of the story. If we stay on point, we'll be better served on National Buffalo Soldier Day.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. I was just saying, as far as a broader scope and expansion project.
No, I get that part. But we got to focus on Buffalo Soldier today. But in terms of the timeline, of course, we're going to expand it because that's how you get, General Austin as, you know, the head of all of the U.S. military. That's how you get, I forget his title, but Brother Williams at West Point, the superintendent. You can't get there without coming through the transition of Arlington Cemetery from a plantation to a cemetery honoring military men and women who have died on the battlefield and others. You can't get there without going through Arlington.
So
People have no idea what Arlington is.
So with that understanding that 11:30 here in California would allow us to begin, as I said earlier, in Arlington, because they're 3 hours, ahead of us.
Yeah.
It sounds to me that Avron, you and Michael have the task of putting that timeline together, and then I can work with what's left.
Yeah, exactly. And we could do that pretty quick because again, Avron worked there, and I know where the archives are. So we could do that pretty quick, I think.
Then as soon as that's done, then we could think about narrators, perhaps, because again, we do actually have West Point graduates in our network that can be narrators or that can actually provide guidance. Because Avron asked a very important question: how might we get funding? One of the ways we can get funding is to show how what we're doing has national significance. So they were last year, Herschel made it clear, or at least earlier today, I was having a conversation last year after George Floyd, over 100 major corporations committed millions of dollars to focus on issues that we're faced with right now. Less than 1% even carried through. So again, here we are now with the opportunity to take advantage of this 400-year African-American Commission that's still running, that we can also tap into. But we can't do anything until we have the skeleton from you guys to begin to fill it in.
That's not going to take much time, because again, if we stay focused, Civil War, we'll do that timeline and then begin to fill out. But I hear the focus on, because we played this game chasing dollars, and if we tell our story, the dollars are there. But that's why California is the only state that has statutory authority for this study, because it's never gotten done.
Well, the great news is that we're self-funding it. So what we're doing is looking for sponsors to come in to take advantage of what we're doing, but we have to get it done first. Herschel Daniels, thanks for joining us.
And I hear the conversation. So
and also one of the big things we have to look in is copywriting and claiming these stories, because the worst thing would be us to do the narration and then Warner Brothers or some major production take that story and make it into their own image, something completely different than what the true story is. So
I hear you. I'm gonna say it again. The matriarch for the Colonel Charles Young Foundation, I've been talking with her. I have the authority to tell the story. The National Park Service, I was there and got awards for the work that we're doing. We don't have to worry about copyright.
Well, it's not so much the worry. Here's the thing. As I'm here because Herschel Daniels. So
Andrew, let him finish. Go ahead.
All right, Michael.
We have. I think we don't have time because y'all ain't gonna read it. It's only 32 pages, but the study is there. The congressional. All you gotta do is Google it. It's online. The congressional study for the Buffalo Soldiers.
I put the link. Online. I put it in the link in phase one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the recommendations that came out of the study, multi-year study, a lot of stakeholders, and again, the matriarch that's responsible for who tells the story of Colonel Charles Young is Renetta Young. She is the assistant controller for Columbia University right there in Harlem. So we don't have to imagine this. She owns Speed Dial and her daughter. And so the story in San Francisco, the Buffalo Soldiers in the Presidio Cemetery, for 4 years we've been doing this work on the shoulders of others who've been doing the work, but they haven't, for whatever reason, got to the finish line. We did. And so now we're saying is now that it's at Union Square and in support the National Park Service, that's part of the U.S. Department of Interior, is following our lead. And our bully pulpit, we haven't pulled it out yet, but we're prepared to do that. Herschel is the first one that told me about it. I just didn't read it myself. Executive Order 13895. So I don't think we have to worry about the money. We just have to worry about telling the story, and the money gonna chase us. But we're not clear on what story we're gonna tell yet.
Well, here's the thing. Just for the time alone, let's say from 12:01 on July 28th through 7 p.m. That's let's say 19, looks like 19 hours. Now, my own time, if I were going to do this at $60 per hour, just to host this thing, does not even take into consideration the EdFu investment of the sponsorship, because we're not just talking about recording it, we're talking about streaming it as well. I can't use my free account to do this stuff. So there's going to be costs involved anyway. So my question to us, you, Herschel, is that at the end of the day, we're actually, and then your time, the planning time, Michael, the planning time, Avon, again, if you just use a round figure of, let's say $60 per hour, just use a number, all that that represents our equity into this. But at the end of the day, someone has to own the copyright or the rights to what it is we produce. So I have to go back to you, Herschel. I'm only here because of you. So how do we work this out?
Okay. So we're planning the stake in the ground on 12:01 for those 19 hours. For those 19 hours, okay, in terms of the memorandum between all of us who are on this call, okay, from the progenitor of this is Michael. Michael brought me into the awareness, okay, and so he's one set who's bringing into awareness. In terms of the production, relative to EdFu as making its hosting available, and you as a private citizen, Michael as a private citizen, Avon as a private citizen, John as a private citizen, and all who come together to do this, I would say that we should do it under a memorandum of understanding to get the production done. And so that the production that we are doing, okay, would be inclusive of all, as Michael said, the family of the Charles Young family. The story in terms of the National Park Service and going to the Park Service, okay, that's going to happen no matter what we do. It's scheduled, okay. What we're producing on the stream in terms of veteran service organization, you want to have the chapters of the Buffalo soldiers that are out there in California that are participating in this. You want to have, as Michael said, the National Park Service Ranger who's carried this to Barack Obama. So based on that, I'm looking at that you're having approximately 10 centers that are involved in this co-production, okay, as the multimedia production that we're talking about, that is centered and around, as Michael said, the story of the colored troops, the Buffalo soldiers, okay, and that's our center. The spinoff of that for oncoming is the Arlington story, to keep that in mind and telling that framework to put it down so that we've locked down that this group is going to do the Arlington story, okay? But this story on Wednesday is the Buffalo soldiers, the colored troops of America. Does that sound about right to you, Michael?
Yeah, yeah. And again, that's where Colonel Charles Young is interred, and his wife, Ada Mills. So yeah, it makes sense.
All right. Now, in terms of John, I asked John Moss to be here because of one of the things is why they were called Buffalo Soldiers. Okay. Because the colored troops were fierce warriors. I mean, that was the whole reason the 200,000 people who were making up the militias, that they were such warriors that they were incorporated into the regular army. And their assignment was an egregious one in dealing with the Native Americans. But that's a story that we would tell in 2022, okay, not here in 2021 when we're establishing their legacy. Yes, John.
Helps if I unmute, huh? So just one quick point of clarification, Michael. When you're mentioning Yosemite, is that Yosemite Park? Is that part of what regarding the national park? One of them or not, or what?
Yeah, Yosemite initially was a state park, and today it is the flagship national park, arguably Yellowstone. But Yosemite, when you think of national parks, that's the one. Yeah, that's where Shelton Johnson is. And as you may know, Yosemite is sacred area where indigenous cultures were, and the authentic documented story, because the Authorization Act of 1866, not only did it allow colored troops to become soldiers, it also allowed Native Americans, indigenous cultures, to become U.S. Army folks. And they were the scouts, and they were the ones that were showing the Buffalo Soldiers led by white officers. And so that the authentic story is there. The assumption is that it's this Black versus indigenous story that's not reality. The Buffalo Soldiers were commanded by white officers under political will called Manifest Destiny, where it's all for white men only. And they were all troops. And most of us that are in the service know that the buck sergeant don't make no decisions on what to do and how to do it.
Yes. So that's why I just wanted to bring up a point of clarification for my brain, and pointing out as well some of the stories I know of and have heard, and I put it in the chat, but might help a little bit with funding in some way. Maybe not at this point.
Yeah.
But
So
down the road.
this year we want to get and grab the 28th and get it online and bring us together in a formal way to get it online. The event that Michael is talking about that will start at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 California Pacific time. Okay. Michael, the question I have for you is, on site, do we have somebody who will stream from that event?
Yes, we will figure that part out. I was planning on doing it. I will know tomorrow whether I'll be released to be able to be in San Francisco. But we have again Rick Penn. He's definitely there, and we have a booth table with the national parks. We'll be there, and the specifics of it I won't know until tomorrow, probably around noon, but probably be before that. But
So
we'll have
just to finish up on my point I was making, is just so you guys know, Chickasaw is a Indian nation and casino at the only entrance to Yosemite. And So there's museum there and other things, but that may be something that some of the tribal leaders might want to get involved in. I don't know. I'm just letting you know.
So
They're right there.
for at this point this year, okay, let's not do that this year, but get it ready for next year that we have this in the can. Okay, and so that we have grabbed it and have it in the can to say that in planning for next year events, okay, with them, that we can include them in terms of that next year. Does that work for you, Michael?
Well, no, it's okay. So in alignment with what, and I gotta start saying it because I like it. Prince Andrew, in alignment with what Prince Andrew said, we're already, looking at monthly, the first Friday, and there's already folks doing first Friday Buffalo Soldiers. This is not just because of COVID, we haven't done it, but this is a regular occurrence. As I said before, they left the Presidio and left Monterey, and they rode horses 30 miles. Each one of those cities we're going to every month and talk about pretty much the same thing we're talking about now, but what it meant to San Bruno, what it meant to Los Banos, what it meant to Merced, what it meant. And so we will get to the casino there, but his name is Assembly Member Ramos. He's the only indigenous member of the California Assembly. I talked with him last week. We have commitments from Native Americans on the ground here. Again, I mean, I haven't focused on the money. I'm doing the work. Now the money is there, but the money folks we have ain't doing their role in getting the money.
So to go back one step, Herschel mentioned 11:30 Eastern time, but you're talking about 11:30 Pacific time. Is that correct?
Well, okay,
No.
so it's a both and conversation. Then we started at midnight. So the actual event at Union Square,
Yes.
physical event at Union
Yes.
Square is 11:30,
Pacific.
8:30 Pacific time. 11:30 at Union Square Pacific.
Right.
8:30 is when we were going to assemble. That everything keep changing. It's in motion, and everything I'm saying is Pacific time. 8:30
Okay.
Pacific time. We were going to do prayer and be at Chrissy Field and give a backdrop of what the Presidio is, because a lot of people, they just know of the Golden Gate, big old pyramid building. But the Presidio itself was founded in 1776, Spanish, Mexican, and then finally American rule. And the African founding father of California, most people have no idea that California is named after an African woman. So at 8:30, we're going to talk about that, and because we're on indigenous land at Presidio before the Spanish came and gaffled people up. And then, of course, they brought us over here when they gaffled up the indigenous land. So, and this is part of Presidio's story. Buffalo Soldier story, it's another story a little later after we free.
Right. Okay. So, Avron, now where physically are you located?
Rochester, New York.
Right. So at 8:30 our time, when we start here, that's actually 11:30 in New York, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So my question, Avron, is there anything your storyboard can begin at 8:30 your time so that you lead actually in Arlington leads into what it is we're doing here in California, or does that make sense?
And talking about the colored troops, yeah, definitely.
So in other words, what I'm trying to, Michael, what I'm trying to do is let us transition from Arlington and that history into California, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So I don't know how far Rochester is from West Point, but it doesn't matter. So and the idea, huh?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So being in Rochester, being in New York is enough, and you don't have to go far. Rochester, the history there is connected to California. I don't know how far. I don't know if you know the history of the Roosevelts. Where was he at in New York?
So
Roosevelts were downstate.
Well, the great news is that all I'm suggesting time-wise, right, is that 8:30 is 8:30 on the East Coast, all of it.
Right. So yeah, we could start there because again, Roosevelt is from New York. The
I'm
Buffalo
not
Soldiers,
confused.
the West Point is from New York. So we could
I'm not-
start there. That makes sense.
I'm not confused.
Yeah, I know. I mean, in terms of the
Oh yeah,
timeline,
definitely. We can definitely mention within that story, like you said, when Colonel Young entered the academy. So we can kind of date his story, emphasize his story throughout the timeline.
That's your challenge.
and right, and in addition, uh, and we could do the timeline and teach along the way. But the idea that California was conquered and colonized by people left at Governor's Island, Stevenson's regiment, and they came from New York. And the whole idea of manifest destiny came from New York.
Okay, I didn't know that history. So
Yeah,
so
no,
yeah,
it's, yeah, a lot of this stuff is a secret. They didn't want to tell people. But the idea that West Point, and that's where Colonel Charles Young, I mean, he there's
Well,
a
Michael,
reason
you can-
why.
you-
There's
you
a
can-
reason why when he graduated, nobody else went through West Point for the next 40 or 50 years. Let's just call it 50 years.
So
David.
all that secret story is now yours to tell. And the
I-
great news is that as much of it as we can put our hands on that perhaps we have already recorded, that we can actually create into a reference, because even though this Zoom is going to run continually, right? You have to think about, we have the ability to create content that could become part of the future of what's called breakout rooms, right? So you could actually have a breakout into each one of these, because we are gonna, after this, pull it together. And as April says, I'm already doing first Fridays of every month anyway, with a brigadier general from West Point. So anything we can do to assist and carry forward, that's fine. But as Herschel says, what we have to do is get July 28th in the can.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine because we're gonna paint a broad picture, and then we're gonna get down into the details of the picture in the monthly Fridays. We'll be fine. And whatever you need for logistic wise, because that, like you said, those are a lot of hours. We could just loop it. We ain't got to be doing content for the whole time.
Oh no, well, here's the thing. This is what I do, so I have no problem with it. I mean, I'm not new to this. I have no problem with it. But here's the thing. You have to think about me as Walter Cronkite, right? I still need a script. I can be there, but what am I saying? So
I got you. I got you.
Work. I just provide me with what I need. I don't have on my part.
All right, so what I'm doing is I'm sharing with everybody a spreadsheet that will be, everybody is an editor right now. I will fill out this in 15-minute increments from midnight Pacific time. All right, this project is going to be designated in Pacific time. Okay, and this spreadsheet, okay, is to be the basis for us storyboarding this out. Okay, and so you should receive within the next couple of minutes that spreadsheet, and so that we can follow up tomorrow. Okay, I want to know what's the programming that you look to contribute, and how long do you need on that? We know that at 11:30 Pacific time, there's going to be a stream. And how long do you think that stream is going to be, Michael?
At the Union Square, I'd say 60 minutes.
Okay, so at most, okay, we're talking from 11:30 to 12:30. We need to program around that time. Okay, and so let's see what we come up with. Okay. What time in the morning, Pacific time in the morning, can we get together? Okay, Andrew starts his day at sometimes at 6 o'clock, okay, which is 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Central time. So what time tomorrow, Michael, are you going to be available to go on this?
I could be available 7:30 Pacific time.
All right. So it's Andrew, are you good at 7:30 tomorrow morning Pacific time?
Yes.
All right. So for those of us in East Coast, it's 10:30. For those of us who are in Central time, it's 9:30. And again, I will fill out this sheet in 15-minute increments. Okay. And if for some reason I'm not on the call, okay, because of I'm at the doctor, okay, I will initially be on the call. I will brief everybody within FAU so that who would be participating. And Andrew has my back. Okay, so if I'm not there, Andrew can speak with authority for FAU.
Okay.
Any questions?
This is John. I just want to maybe suggest, Michael, everyone is, since you are mentioning the Department of the Parks and Secretary of Interior, I doubt she'll attend, but I would recommend maybe us making an official acknowledgement to Deborah Holland to see if she would like to in some way participate or whatever, but at least that way she knows about it, and for down the road, and who knows, there may be something she may want to engage in. Just FYI.
Oh no, they've already been. John, you know we rolling with.
Yeah, you know,
that,
but I'm just bringing it
well,
up.
okay,
You know.
well, I'm just Okay, so today, so you are clear. The regional director of the Forestry Service was official. It's a brother that's over all the forestry. That's Department of Agriculture. They've already been online. So the highest level of the National Park Service reports to Deb. She's well aware of this, Interior Department, and that's why we are moving this in this way and able to do what we're doing, and nobody else has done it. So yes, so I would hope that you can do that same thing. So it's not just our voice saying that, because there's this perception that the indigenous cultures and the African cultures are somehow separate. So if it's only us saying it, it ain't cool. You know what I mean? And so here in California, we don't have that problem. But see, in Cheyenne country and Apache country, somehow the Buffalo Soldier is the enemy, and the one who gave the order to slaughter get a pass and is loved. And so we got to have that conversation. But the Buffalo Soldier Day and why the Buffalo Soldiers were created, it's not a Native American story. That's because we were enslaved and we had to, fight for our freedom. And as you well know, the 5 civilized tribes enslaved people of African descent. So that's a conversation we could have. But I'm encouraging you to contact the Interior Department and tell the story as you know it. But when we get to the source documentation, I know we'll be on the same side, because when the truth busts out, it's not me you have to worry about. Somebody gave the order, and it wasn't me. It wasn't the Buffalo Soldier.
Well, that's why Herschel and I talked about it. There's mixed stories. There are.
Okay,
Right.
what's the official story? So
No,
let's tell the official story.
Right.
So
That's
we-
what
Okay, I'm just saying.
Whatever
Let's
I
story,
agree.
tell
I
the
agree.
official story.
whatever,
agree.
whatever
about.
whatever story we want to tell, we have to do it after we end this and come back.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
we're done.
the challenge is, and that's why we're in 2021, and where I live, racism is a public health crisis. And it
So
ain't
my
because
question
it's
is,
on Native American land.
My
Go ahead.
question is, if we're going to come back, then we need to end here and we come back. Are we through?
No, we got work to do, and and I'm gonna say your name wrong. I can't even see it. Averin. How you say it?
Averin.
Averin. What is your number and your email? Because you and I got to get the timeline done tonight.
Yeah, I'm sending that to you right now.
Okay. Are you sending it in the chat or where? Are you sending an email?
Yeah, I'm sending it in the chat.
Okay. All right.
Also, just to
All
let you
right,
know,
so
I did put the Zoom link for, and let me clarify, that's from 12:01 midnight to 6 p.m. because there is another event at 6 p.m. on July 8th. So we only have, I'm sorry, July 28th. So we have from 12 midnight to 6 p.m.
Okay.
right,
That's 18 hours.
18 hours, 18 hours.
Okay.
And I'll
right,
create
now-
I'll create a customized link, but that is actual content right there in the chat.
All right,
Okay.
and so everybody should have a link to the spreadsheet, and I've started to fill out the timeline, okay, in 15-minute increments, okay, from 12 o'clock p.m. a.m. Pacific time, okay. And so I will block 1 hour that we will have from 11:30 to 12:30. That's set for the stream. Everything else is up for us to put it together.
This recording is this Zoom is about to end. So again, do we want to end or are we coming back or which?
We want to end, okay, and I will call each of you to make sure that you've got the link.
Yeah,
All right.
and we'll reconvene at 7:30 Pacific time.
I'll send the
Yep.
link for that as well.
Okay.
All right, we got 1 minute left. I love everyone.
You send the link. Did you send that in email, Herschel?
Yep. It should be in your email right now.
Sister
Okay,
Bernice,
I'm
you
gonna-
got a Sister Bernice, you got a
call
90-second prayer for us.
Unmute yourself and let's do it.
Yes, thank you. Father in heaven, it is once again that we come together for a common purpose. We ask you to guide us and direct us and give us insight, give us foresight, that we may do what you would have us to do. We realize that you have already predestined and preordained
Yes.
that this shall happen.
Yes.
So therefore, let us work in love and fellowship one with another in order that we may accomplish the goal that you have set for us. And we'll give you the honor and we'll give you the praise. And we thank you, Lord, for this another day. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I hope.
So the doc link for everybody is right there. It's in the chat. Okay. For the
chat.
spreadsheet.
Save
Better
the
click
chat.
on it now.
Okay.
It's about to end. Save the chat. Get it while you get it while the getting's good.
It's
All
got
right. And I'll